My brother called me a failure for decades. Then Googled my name, found my $500 million net worth, and showed up at my office unannounced. Hello, dear ones. Please subscribe, comment a quick hi, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's continue this journey together. My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, uncertainty bleeding through her professional tone. Ms. Richardson, there's a Chris Richardson here. He says he's your brother. I froze, my fountain pen hovering above the acquisition contract worth $47 million. That name. I hadn't heard it spoken aloud in my presence for 15 years. My hand trembled slightly, black ink bleeding onto the pristine paper beneath. Tell him I'm in meetings all day, I said, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. Through my floor-to-ceiling windows, the city stretched below like a kingdom I'd built from nothing. My reflection stared back at me, a 42-year-old woman in a custom suit that cost more than my childhood home. But all I could see was that 18-year-old girl, standing in her family's living room while her brother laughed. A software developer? Girl, you can barely work a microwave. You're gonna fail just like everything else you touch. The memory hit like a fist to my chest. Chris had said those words at my high school graduation party, right before handing me a gas station gift card as a graduation present. Everyone had laughed. Even Mama had smiled, shaking her head like I was a child playing dress-up. My assistant buzzed again. He's saying it's urgent. Family emergency. I pressed my fingers against my temples. There it was, the manipulation tactic that had controlled me for decades. Family emergency. The words that made me drop everything, cancel plans, drain bank accounts, sacrifice opportunities. Not anymore. Security will escort him out, I said, returning to my contract. But my hand still shook. That night I couldn't sleep. My penthouse apartment, with its imported marble and original artwork, felt suffocating. I poured myself whiskey neat and let the memories I'd locked away come flooding back. Growing up, I was the family disappointment. My brother Chris was the golden child, the football star, the one who could do no wrong. My sister Tasha had Mama's beauty and charm. Then there was me, the middle child, always too quiet, too bookish, too different. Why can't you be more like your brother? Daddy would say, usually after Chris scored another touchdown or brought home another trophy. I'd be sitting right there, straight as on the table, science fair ribbons gathering dust, invisible. When I was 13, I built my first computer from salvaged parts. I was so proud, running into the kitchen where Mama was cooking dinner and Chris was talking about his latest game. Look what I made. Chris barely glanced over. Nobody cares about your nerd stuff, Lucinda. When you gonna do something that matters? Mama had nodded along. Baby, maybe you should focus on finding yourself a nice boy instead of playing with all them wires and things. I remembered standing there holding my creation, watching my family dismiss me like I was background noise. That's when something inside me crystallized, hard and cold. I would prove them all wrong. But I didn't know then how much that mission would cost me. How proving them wrong would mean cutting out the very people whose approval I desperately craved. How success wouldn't feel like I'd imagined. I finished my whiskey, Chris's face still haunting me. What did he want after all these years? I found out the next morning. My head of security, James, a retired detective with 30 years of experience, knocked on my office door looking troubled. Your brother didn't leave yesterday, he said, pulling up security footage on his tablet. He spent 3 hours in the lobby cafe on his phone. My stomach tightened. And I had one of my guys keep an eye on him. He was Googling you, Ms. Richardson. Really Googling you. Pictures, articles, Forbes interviews, everything. You should have seen his face when he read about the latest merger. I watched the footage. There was Chris, older now, thicker around the middle, wearing a wrinkled polo shirt and cheap sneakers. His expression shifted from curiosity to shock to something that made my blood run cold. Calculation. He'd found out. After 15 years of silence, he discovered that his failure sister was worth $500 million. He came back this morning, James continued. He's downstairs again. Says he'll wait as long as it takes. I should have called the police, gotten a restraining order. Instead, I heard myself say, send him up. James's eyebrows shot up. You sure about that? No. But I needed to face this. Needed to look him in the eye and see what 15 years and $500 million had changed. Give me 10 minutes, then send him up. I called my therapist, Dr. Williams. She answered immediately. The brother? She asked, knowing my history. Yes. Remember what we discussed. You don't owe him anything. Not your time, not your money, not your forgiveness. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. I know. But knowing and believing are different things. Chris walked into my office like he owned it, that same swagger from high school, but his eyes couldn't hide his awe. They darted from the custom furniture to the city view to the awards lining my walls. Damn, little sis. You really made something of yourself. Little sis. Like we just talked yesterday. Like he hadn't spent 24 years telling me I'd amount to nothing. Chris. I didn't offer my hand. What do you want? He had the decency to look uncomfortable, shifting his weight. That's cold key. I'm your brother. Can't I just want to see my sister? You haven't wanted to see me since I was 18. What changed? I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. Actually, I know what changed. You Googled me yesterday. Spent 3 hours reading about my net worth. His face flushed. Who told you that? You got people spying on me now? That's paranoid, Lucinda. It's called security. Something you need when you're worth what I'm worth. I watched him process that. Now answer the question. What do you want? He tried a different approach, sitting down uninvited, leaning forward with that fake sincerity he'd perfected over the years. Look, I know we had our differences when we were kids, but that was a long time ago. We're family. Family's supposed to stick together. I felt something hot and dangerous rising in my chest. Family sticks together? Let me tell you about family, Chris. I pulled up my phone, scrolling to a folder I'd kept for moments like this. June 2010. I called you when I lost my first apartment. You said, and I quote, maybe if you weren't such a failure, you wouldn't be homeless. His face paled. December 2012, I continued, my voice steady despite the pain blooming in my chest. I invited you to my first company launch. You texted back, nobody's gonna buy anything from a broke girl pretending to be smart. Stop embarrassing yourself. Chris opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. March 2015, I called to tell you I'd secured my first major investment, $20 million. You laughed and said I'd probably slept my way into it. Then you hung up on me. Each memory was a scar I'd carried, now exposed under fluorescent light. I watched my brother's face crumble, but I couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. August 2017, Mama's 60th birthday. I flew home first time in years. You stood in front of everyone and said, look who finally showed up. Our resident failure who thinks she's too good for us now. Do you remember what happened next? He was silent. Daddy agreed with you. Tasha laughed. Mama said nothing. And I left. That was the last time I saw any of you. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. Through my window, the city hummed with life, oblivious to this reckoning. Chris finally spoke, his voice small. I was young. I was stupid. I didn't mean. You meant every word, I said quietly. You enjoyed it. Making me feel small made you feel big. I'm sorry. He looked at me and for a moment I saw something real in his eyes. I am so sorry. I wanted to believe him. God, part of me still wanted to believe him. That wounded little girl inside me still craved her big brother's approval. But I wasn't that girl anymore. What do you want? He looked down at his hands. I need help. I'm losing my house, Chris said, the words tumbling out like he'd been holding them back. Lost my job 6 months ago. Sarah left me, took the kids. I got behind on everything, car payments, mortgage, credit cards. They're gonna foreclose next month. I listened, my face neutral, though inside something was screaming. This was it, the real reason for his visit. Not reconciliation. Not family. Money. How much? I asked. His eyes lit up with hope. The mortgage is $200,000. But with the credit cards and car and everything else, maybe $350,000 would get me clear. $350,000. I spent that on art last month. It was nothing to me. Everything to him. And he knew it. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You spent 2 decades telling me I was worthless. You mocked my dreams, dismissed my achievements, and poisoned our entire family against me. Now you're in trouble and you expect me to write you a check. We're family, Lucinda. Stop saying that. I slammed my hand on the desk, surprising both of us. You don't get to use that word now. You don't get to weaponize family when it's convenient for you. Chris stood up, his face reddening. I said I was sorry. What more do you want? I want you to understand what you took from me. I stood too, facing him across my desk. Do you have any idea what it's like to succeed beyond your wildest dreams and have nobody who knew you before care? To have every achievement feel hollow because the people who were supposed to love you made you believe you didn't deserve it. My voice cracked. I made my first million at 25. I cried myself to sleep that night because I had nobody to call. You want to know the worst part? I continued, my voice shaking now. Even now, even after everything, part of me wants to give you the money. Just to feel like I matter to you. Just to hear you say you're proud of me. How pathetic is that? Chris's expression shifted. I watched it happen in real time, the mask dropping. Look, I don't have time for this therapy session. Are you gonna help me or not? There was the real Chris. Not the apologetic brother, not the desperate man seeking reconciliation. The same person who'd always seen me as less than. You really don't get it, do you? I said quietly. You still think I'm that same girl you could push around. I think you're someone who forgot where she came from, he shot back. You got a little money and now you're too good for your own family. Mama was right about you. The mention of our mother felt like ice water in my veins. What did you say? Chris must have sensed he'd struck a nerve because he leaned into it. Mama. You know, the woman who raised you. Who you abandoned. She talks about you sometimes, wonders why her daughter doesn't call, doesn't visit, doesn't care. I sent Mama money every month for 5 years. I shouted. $10,000 a month. You know what she did? Gave it to you and Tasha. I found out when her bank statement got mailed to my old address by mistake. His silence confirmed it. She never even acknowledged it, I continued, my voice breaking. Never said thank you, never asked if I was okay, nothing. I was just an ATM to her. To all of you. Chris recovered quickly. So what, you're punishing her now? Punishing me? Because your feelings got hurt. My feelings got hurt? I laughed, bitter and harsh. You destroyed me, Chris. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. A memory surfaced, vivid and painful. I was 21, working 3 jobs while building my first startup in a studio apartment with broken heat. It was February, brutally cold, and I was surviving on ramen and coffee. I'd called home, hoping to hear a kind word, anything to keep me going. Hey Mama, it's me. Lucinda? Why you calling? Something wrong? No, just wanted to hear your voice. It's been a hard week and... Hold on, Chris is here. Chris. Your sister's on the phone, being dramatic again. I heard him in the background. Tell her I'm busy. Unlike some people, I got real responsibilities. Mama laughed. Your brother says hi. Look baby, I gotta go. We're about to watch Chris's game highlights. You should try being more supportive of your brother's success instead of calling with your problems all the time. She hung up. I'd sat in that freezing apartment holding the phone, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. 6 months later, my startup got acquired for $18 million. I called home to share the news. That's nice, baby, Mama had said, distracted. Listen, can you send some money? Chris needs a new car for work. That was the moment I realized the truth. They would never see me. No amount of success would make me matter to them. Now looking at Chris, I saw that nothing had changed. He was looking at his phone, barely paying attention to my pain, already calculating his next move. Are you even listening to me? I asked. He looked up, irritated. I heard you. You had it rough. We all had it rough, Lucinda. Stop acting like you're special. Something inside me snapped. Get out, I said, my voice deadly calm. Chris blinked. What? Get out of my office. Out of my building. Out of my life. He laughed nervously. Come on, Key, don't be dramatic. Let's talk about this like adults. I am being an adult. I'm setting a boundary. You don't respect me, you never have, and I'm done pretending that might change. I pressed the button for security. James, please escort Mr. Richardson out. Wait. Chris held up his hands. Okay, you're right. I was an asshole. But I'm desperate here, Lucinda. My kids, your nieces, they're gonna lose their home. You'd really do that to them? Let them suffer because you're mad at me. The manipulation was so obvious, so practiced. But it still hurt. Your children are not my responsibility, I said. You are their father. You made choices that led to this. Those are consequences, not punishment. So that's it? You're just gonna watch your family fall apart. You are not my family, I said, and saying it out loud felt like breaking chains. Family doesn't do what you did to me. Family doesn't spend decades destroying someone's spirit, then show up with their hand out when they need something. James appeared in the doorway, 2 other security guards behind him. Chris's face twisted with rage. You're gonna regret this. You think you're better than us now? You're nothing but a stuck-up bitch who got lucky. There it is, I said softly. The real you. Mama was right, you're a cold-hearted. Goodbye, Chris. James and the guards moved in. Chris fought against them verbally, shouting obscenities, threats, anything to hurt me one last time. His voice echoed down the hallway as they escorted him out. I stood alone in my office, shaking. I canceled my afternoon meetings and sat in the silence of my office, Chris's words echoing in my mind. My phone buzzed. Mama was calling. I stared at her name on the screen, my thumb hovering over the answer button. I hadn't spoken to her in 8 years, not since that birthday party. Not since she'd chosen to believe Chris's version of who I was. I answered. Baby girl, she said, her voice sweet as honey. Chris told me what happened. He's real upset. No hello. No how are you. No acknowledgement of the years of silence. Just straight to defending Chris. I'm sure he is, I said. He says you refused to help him. Your own brother about to lose everything and you just turned your back on him. That true? My heart was pounding. Did he tell you why I refused? He said you went on some rant about the past. Baby, you need to let go of old grudges. That's what family does. We forgive. Forgive. I laughed hollow. Mama, when have you ever asked for my forgiveness? When have any of you apologized for treating me like I was worthless? Oh Lord, here we go. Always playing the victim. You always were too sensitive. Too sensitive. The words she'd used my entire childhood whenever I dared to express hurt. Too sensitive when Chris destroyed my science project out of jealousy. Too sensitive when Daddy forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. Too sensitive when they all laughed at my dreams. I built a $500 million company, I said quietly. I employ 1,500 people. I've been featured in Forbes, Bloomberg, Fortune. I've donated millions to charity. And none of you have ever once said you were proud of me. Silence. So don't call me sensitive when I refuse to fund my abuser's lifestyle. Your abuser? Mama's voice rose. That's your brother. He never abused you. He did, Mama. You all did. My voice was steady now, clear. Mental and emotional abuse is still abuse. And you enabled it. You participated in it. I did no such thing. I raised you, fed you, clothed you. You did the bare minimum required by law, I interrupted. But you never saw me. Never supported my dreams. Never defended me when Chris tore me down. You know what you did instead? You gave him the money I sent you. Money I worked myself to exhaustion for, hoping you might acknowledge me, thank me, anything. And you gave it away like I didn't matter. I heard her sharp intake of breath. Chris told you about that? So it's true. $10,000 a month for 5 years. $600,000. Never once did you call to say thank you. I didn't think you'd miss it. You're rich. That's not the point. I was shouting now, tears streaming down my face. The point is I was trying to show you I loved you, that I'd made it, that maybe I was worth something to you. And you proved I wasn't. Lucinda Marie Richardson, you watch your tone with me. I'm your mother. Then act like it. The words exploded out of me. Act like my success matters. Act like my pain matters. Act like I matter. Just once, Mama, just once, choose me. The silence on the other end was deafening. I can't believe how selfish you've become, she finally said. Your brother is losing his house and you're making this about you. That money would have just sat in your account. It could have changed his life. Something inside me died. The last hope, the final wish that maybe, somehow she might understand. Tell Chris I'm not giving him any money, I said. Tell him to lose my number. And Mama? What? Lose mine too. I hung up. That evening, I sat in Dr. Williams's office, mascara running down my face, ugly, crying in a way I hadn't allowed myself to in years. I keep thinking I should feel relieved, I sobbed. I set the boundary. I stood up for myself. So why does it hurt so much? Dr. Williams handed me another tissue. Because you're grieving. Not the family you have, but the family you deserved and never got. Will it always hurt this much? No, she said gently. But first you have to let yourself feel it. You've spent 24 years running from this pain, building an empire to prove them wrong. Now you have to sit with the truth. You were never going to be enough for them because they were never capable of seeing you. I sent Chris evidence, I said suddenly, while you were in the bathroom. Screenshots of every cruel text, every dismissive call, every moment he made me feel worthless. I sent it to him with one message: this is why. How do you feel about that? Angry. Vindicated. Terrified. I looked at her. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm being cruel by not helping him? Lucinda, answer me honestly. If you gave Chris that money, would it change anything between you? I thought about it, really thought about it. No. He'd take the money and still think I owed him more. He'd still tell people I'm a bitch who abandoned the family. He'd still call when he needed something else. Then you already know the answer. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it and my blood ran cold. It was from Tasha, my younger sister. I hadn't heard from her in years. Hope you're happy. Mama's in the hospital. Heart attack. Chris says it's your fault. The room spun. I drove to the hospital in a daze, Dr. Williams's warnings echoing in my head. This might be another manipulation. Be prepared. He was right. When I arrived, I found Mama sitting up in her hospital bed, laughing with Tasha and Chris. No machines, no emergency. She saw me and her face hardened. What are you doing here? I got a text saying you had a heart attack. Tasha smirked. I said she was in the hospital. Didn't say why. She's getting her knee looked at. The manipulation was so blatant, so cruel, I almost laughed. You told me she had a heart attack and that it was my fault. Well, the stress you're causing isn't helping her health, Chris said. But since you're here, you can cover the medical bills. I looked at the three of them, my mother, my brother, my sister, and I saw clearly for the first time, they would never change. They would squeeze me dry and blame me when I had nothing left to give. No, I said simply. I turned to walk out and Mama called after me. You walk out that door, you're not my daughter anymore. I stopped, turned back. I haven't been your daughter in a very long time, Mama. I just didn't realize it until now. You'll regret this. Chris shouted. You'll be old and alone with all your money and nobody to love you. I smiled, sad and knowing. I already am alone. I've been my whole life. The difference is now I'm choosing it. I walked out into the cold evening air, crying, broken but somehow free. I called my assistant. Cancel everything tomorrow. I need a day. That night, I sat in my empty penthouse, surrounded by all the things success had brought me, feeling the weight of the family I'd lost and the life I'd built from their rejection. My phone buzzed. A text from James. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. I thought about all the people I employed, the scholarships I funded, the community programs my foundation supported. I thought about the young women who reached out to me, calling me their inspiration, saying I showed them what was possible. Maybe Chris was right. Maybe I would be alone. But I wouldn't be nothing. I'd never be nothing again. I looked at my reflection in the darkened window, that little girl who once built computers from scraps, who dreamed bigger than her family could understand, who survived being called a failure until she became undeniable. You did it, I whispered to her. You survived. But surviving wasn't the same as living. And living meant letting them go once and for all. Living meant accepting that some people will never see your worth and that's their loss, not yours. I blocked their numbers, all of them, and felt the final chain break. Success, I realized, wasn't proving them wrong. It was learning that I never needed their validation in the first place. I'd spent 24 years building an empire to show them I mattered. But I'd always mattered. They just weren't capable of seeing it. The real failure would have been staying small to make them comfortable. I'd chosen to become extraordinary instead. And maybe that meant being alone. But it also meant being free. I poured myself a drink, toasted the skyline, and finally let myself grieve the family I'd never had and never would. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some stories are just about survival. And sometimes that's enough. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share your own experiences in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose between family and your own well-being? Let's talk about it. And remember, you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm.